All right, hello guys. So hopefully we are live. Hopefully everything is working. I'm just checking on YouTube, make sure everything's good to go. We should be good to go. All right, so I'm going to say this is going to be kind of a test stream with also what we're doing today because I'm using a new programming software. So, or not programming. How would I say this? Streaming software. And so we're going to be kind of trying some things out. My mic might sound different. Visually, the stream might look better or worse. Not sure. So if you guys notice anything different or improvements you guys want me to make, let me know. But yeah. So as you guys can tell, like the chat's different. So I moved to Streamlabs OBS just because it was a little bit more convenient for me for streaming. And with all the issues I was kind of having with OBS, which is my recording software, I decided to try something else out. But yeah, so hi Hugo, hi Jim, welcome to the stream. Let me know, do you guys think I should, is my volume good? Does the video look okay? Let me know what you guys think. Hi Ashley, how are you? But we're going to be doing just kind of a Q&A in this stream. I kind of wanted to scale it down from what we had done in the last few streams, which is really long videos where it was like an imperialism thing. Kind of just go back to a nice little Q&A, just answer some questions and all of that. Hi, Caden. How are you? Volume is great. Good to see. Because I had to mess with it a little bit. I ported all of my settings over from my recording software, but some of them didn't work really. I'm also noticing the chat box isn't really working that well, so unfortunately I'll have to get that kind of figured out. Hopefully I can get that figured out because I can tell chat's not working just by the frequency of seeing you guys in chat and then it not popping on the screen. So unfortunately that didn't work. A volume is great, thank you. There it goes. I don't know. It's being really laggy, so hopefully it fixes itself. I don't know. General Kenobi, yes. I've been really getting into Star Wars lately. I've really been getting into kind of the lore surrounding a lot of characters. So, for instance, Darth Maul is one of my favorite characters in all of movies and all that. And so, going through his entire history has been really cool. Been going through General Grievous, just looking at videos and stuff like that. So, it's interesting you noticed that. I've been kind of getting a little bit more into Star Wars. Hi, random stuff. How are you? Also, let me change the chat to live chat. All right. How are you all on this fine day? I'm pretty good, random stuff. How are you? I will say, I injured myself doing a workout, I'm assuming, or I laid on my arm last Thursday, so I haven't really been able to work out with weights in a while, which has kind of sucked. So I've only been able to do cardio, which kind of sucks. But outside of that, we're doing pretty good. How do you feel about Tywin's secret tunnel to the whorehouse? Do you feel it lessens or strengthens his and Tyrion's story? I feel like it kind of strengthens it. It kind of shows Tywin and Tyrion how kind of similar they are, while Tywin his whole life has really hated Tyrion for a lot of reasons, right? It's not for a lot of reasons, Tywin sees his flaws in Tyrion, and I think that's a big thing. Funny that you mentioned this, Jim. That you mentioned, do you think House Hightower will be in Winds of Winter? Now, I definitely do think they will be, and I also want to point out that I actually recorded a 40-minute video today, a history about House Hightower, so I definitely think they will. I think the reason a lot of the earlier books don't have a lot of House Hightower in them is specifically because there's just, I don't think he had come up with the idea yet for House Hightower. And Fire and Blood kind of let him build a history for that family and show their importance. So I kind of like that. I am going to say, though, this chat box, it's kind of suspect, okay? Because sometimes it shows it and then it spams all of them on the screen. So I don't know how I feel about that yet. Maybe I might replace this and just try to do a windowed chat box like we used to do. We'll see what happens, though. Hi, Matthew. My chat box wasn't popping up there for a second. Yeah, kind of having some weird stuff going on with it. Hi, Evie. Yes, so I forget the guy's name, but we basically have this Hightower, his Lord Hightower, that hasn't been seen in over a decade. So it's kind of propped up some conspiracies. Is like, is he dead? Is he doing some sus things like magic in the High Tower? We don't know because no one's really seen this guy. Leighton Hightower, that is the name. Random stuff got it on the money. Leighton Hightower, we have not seen him. So. Hi, Ander. How are you? Sinuses are giving me a grief on account of changing weather. So yeah, I feel you on that, Ashley, because we went from like where I live, we went from like below freezing to like Sunday when I was working, it was like 50, 60s, like throughout the entire day. It was really weird. But yeah. Hi man, how are you? So let's get into the questions. A lot of people commented on my community poll. So again, if I ever do these Q&As, I usually put out a community post. So if you want to get your questions answered, that's always a good place. I will try and answer the questions that you guys leave in chat as well. But specifically, those questions, you know, will be answered that I get on the community tab. I also have to go back to the community tab. Somebody put in a question kind of after I made my document. But B asks, how much of the Snow Show do you think will be canon, and what are your predicted endings for each of the main 5? So the back part of this, I'm assuming he's saying predicted like main 5 characters in the story, like as in the books. We'll get there in a second. How much of the Snow Show do you think will be canon? So this part, I don't know, because in my opinion, the Snow Show is kind of already this idea that's very far away from the book. Just because based upon how they went with Jon's character, I don't know. To me, I think if what George has planned, that Jon will live with the wildlings north of the wall, I could see it happening where maybe the others are not taken out completely and maybe they rise up, because I still don't know what the Snow Show is about. I don't know where they're going with it. I don't know if they're going to say, oh, Jon's going to try and take Bran. I don't know. I really don't feel like it's going to be that connected to the show. I feel like it's going to be kind of its own story. It's kind of how I view Star Wars, where it's like, it's kind of its own story now. It's not really canon with what Star Wars is for me. Kind of how I feel about Snow Show. But I will give it, you know, a chance, and hopefully it's decent. Also, shout out to my St. Louis Zoo mug with my tea. And what are your predicted endings for each of the main 5? So the main 5, I'm not sure who exactly are the main 5. I'm just going to go through who I think they probably are. So Jon, I think Jon probably has a similar ending to the show. I think out of all of the ones, that is the most likely. I think it does make sense that he survives the entire war, but he's very much scarred emotionally, mentally. He's not really this person that wants to be involved anymore, and he kind of just wants to go into exile. I could see that. I think that's a very decent ending for Jon. Maybe he marries like Val, or maybe not marries, but maybe he has a relationship with Val and they go north of the wall. I think that's a decent ending for Jon. I'm not gonna get too far into that because there's still a lot of question marks I have as to whether Daenerys is gonna go crazy or mad, or she's gonna be sacrificed, defeat the others. Who knows on that one? So I mean, that's Jon, I guess, for me. Dany to me, I think she's going to die fighting the others. I could also see a scenario where she kills young Griff and she just destroys the young Griff camp. And then I think all of Westeros just kind of realizes maybe this isn't the person that we want to be ruling. Because again, I just don't see a world where the dragons come back into the story. Just given their destructive power, I think Daenerys is probably destined to die. I think the good outcome for Dany is maybe maybe Drogon dies and she gets to live out like somewhere and having a home where nobody bothers her or anything like that. Maybe they fake her death. That'd be kind of cool if George faked her death for like all of the main characters in the story, and then she just got to live on. That could be interesting. I don't think it's gonna happen though. So Arya, I guess I don't know if Arya. I would assume Arya is part of the main like 5. So Arya, I think Arya becomes kind of an assassin character like we talked about in Winds of Winter. And I think her character will start to kind of revert on that, where she's always wanted revenge and she's always wanted these things. And I think seeing her mother, Stoneheart, will help revert that. I think her just realizing what revenge does, what anger does, what killing and violence does is not the route. I think Arya will kind of have a character flip by the end of the story. I think, I don't know, man. Arya's a tough character because I could see Arya dying fighting the others. I could also see it where maybe George doesn't go the route I'm saying, where he goes full into it. Like maybe he goes fully into the revenge story and she dies trying to kill someone, or she does kill someone, but it ends up getting her killed. I could see a lot of things like that. I think Arya is kind of a tough character to judge for the most part. Before we keep going, let me read some comments because I kind of got ahead of myself a little bit. I somewhat doubt there will be a Snow show. I kind of just don't really understand why you would want to bring up old wounds. Like, bringing up Jon Snow, basically, you have to, because this is the thing with the Jon Snow show, you're going to have to rehash some of the things people hated about Season 8. So I just don't understand why. Like, House of the Dragon seems like they are trying to distance themselves from reminding us what happened in Game of Thrones. And that's good. That's what they should do. But the Jon Snow show is a sequel to a show that nobody liked the ending of, right? Like, it doesn't really make sense. It's like, say Star Wars, the original Star Wars series, had done badly. Like, they weren't well loved, not many people like them. Or no, let's say, hold on, let's change that. Let's say people loved the first two movies, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back. Return of the Jedi comes out, people hate it. People hate where they went with Jon Snow's character, or not Jon Snow, where they went with Luke's character. People hate maybe what happened with Leia. Why would you do a sequel series of that, or a prequel series of that, when people didn't like what happened there? A prequel series is a bit more understandable, like with what House of the Dragon does, because it's kind of its own kind of story. It doesn't directly tie into a Game of Thrones for what's going on there. You have different kind of things going on. But a sequel, it's like you're directly going off of that. So, I don't know. That's how I kind of would look at it. I bet Zero will be canon. I kind of agree with you on that, Jim. My theory is he finds Drogon. I'd be interested, man, what do you think would happen if he found Drogon? Like, what do you think the significance would be there? It sounds like a terrible idea to me. I kind of agree. Cash grab, I also can see that, Ander. I think it's one of those things where it's like making a Game of Thrones show to make a Game of Thrones show, and you use your most popular characters. So I can definitely see that. I wouldn't mind a sequel like 20, 30 years later after Bran dies, seeing what happens next. I think that's also a decent idea as well. I would probably go a little bit further. Like, I'd want to go a little bit further where a lot of our characters aren't alive anymore. Like, I would want to come back to where it's like Bran has stayed king, but kind of everyone around him has changed, and the world as a whole is a bit different. I find a Snow sequel to be completely lackluster. Agreed. It seems like we kind of all agree on the Jon Snow show not really having like a ton of importance, I guess, to the story. If a show has four crap seasons in a row, why would you want a fifth? I kind of agree. I agree. I just hope the show actually takes place within the Seven Kingdoms and not north of the Wall. See, not sure, but I think the weirdest thing though is if you wanted to do that, why use Jon Snow? And why have the show being marketed and centered around Jon Snow? If you're going to do within the Seven Kingdoms, why wouldn't you just do it based on, like, Tyrion, for instance? Like, showing what Tyrion's going through with being Hand of the King, how the kingdoms have progressed since Bran's being ruled. I just don't know why you would go that route. Duncan Egg show is probably 5 to 8 years away still. That's what I want to see. Hopefully, George R. R. Martin released 2 books by then. Yes, hopefully. The tone of the story is Jon, so why make a Song of Fire is its history along with Danny? I agree. I agree. So, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about the Snow Show. And getting back to the predictions for kind of the ending of the 5 main characters. And again, any of these characters you want to see, I would just check out like my Christmas special I did for all of these characters. I guess your main 5, you would go then Tyrion. So Tyrion, I think Tyrion is in a real weird spot. Because in the show, it kind of seemed fairly obvious where Tyrion's character was going. In the books, it's much different. In the books, I could very easily see Tyrion die in this story. Because of who he is as a person right now, if it does take on that mantle of being kind of the devil on Dany's shoulder and telling her to kind of give in to her worst impulses, I could really see Tyrion dying or becoming maybe a mute, where he has to live out the rest of his life as a mute. I could see that happening. I could see a situation where Tyrion does become like a Hand of the King role for like a Bran character or something like that. Kind of similar to the way the show did it, but just with a different like tone and different reasoning. Because again, I think Dany is going to fail. So if Tyrion is involved with Dany, how is that going to work for the people that come to the throne next, if there is a throne still? I think it's interesting. I think because Tyrion's not really a fighter, if he dies, it's because he betrays someone. It's because he betrays Dany, or say after Dany dies, he betrays somebody else. That's the only way I really could see that happening. To me, North of the Wall seems completely empty the way things played out, other than the wildlings with Jon already. So I just think it would be boring. North of the Wall in the show. I mean, yes. So I agree, not sure. And I think the only thing for me that has me maybe interested about the Jon Snow show would be Jon himself, like his actual characterization. Like, how would they deal with the amount of trauma Jon has gone through? Where, when you really look at start to finish, Jon's life has been hell. Jon has killed a woman that he loved. I mean, a woman he loved turns out to be, he's related to her. So now he's not really in the same type of love situation, a very awkward situation. Then regardless, he has to kill his family member and someone he does have feelings for in Dany. He watches countless innocent die. He's stabbed by his brothers. He's gone through warring. He's come back from from being dead. There's a lot you could actually do with Jon's character if he's written like properly. But I don't know if they're going to take the time to really go with George R. Martin's themes, where the theme of the heart and humanistic qualities, like what drives someone like Jon at this point. Like, what is driving Jon to continue his life, right? Is it that, oh, the wildlings and people like Tormund make him happy? Like, is this lifestyle what he wanted? All are interesting questions, in my opinion, that could be answered in a Jon Snow show. But plot wise, like actually looking at what would take place in the story, I don't really feel like there's a lot there. Like, you could maybe come up with a plot that the others or the White Walkers are still alive. That would feel kind of cheap to me. Wouldn't really feel earned. Because again, we saw really no foreshadowing to that happening, and when you're doing a direct sequel of something, it doesn't really make sense, but it's kind of what I feel like the show is leaning into. You could then maybe have the Bran conflict, but I don't know how that would work, and I just don't care that much, personally. I don't know, it's an interesting idea that I would really be interested to see, like, in a meeting, talking about where the show is going, to figure out where they want to focus the plot on. Because there are aspects you can do, like I've talked about, but I don't know where you can go with the plot. So, I don't know, that's my issue with it. A Dunk and Egg show would be cool, but it would inevitably lead to the same problems God had. This whole story is not finished, not enough to adapt. That's a good point, Dogman. That makes sense. Something I wouldn't mind seeing is some kind of animated Game of Thrones equivalent of What If about various... That would be really cool, Man of the Wall. I think that'd actually be a really good idea. I think that would be awesome to actually see. I would want to do a distant future for a sequel with New World theme, timeline where the kingdoms colonize the continent that's west of Westeros. That'd be interesting as well. I think HBO just needs to hire some of us and give them ideas. I do not think that would be tacky, Man of the Wall. I think that'd be a really cool idea. I mean, seeing that play out on screen, like, I love making the what if videos. A lot of the times they just don't do well, like, view-wise, or I just feel like you guys are not as interested in what if videos as like other stuff on my channel, which is why I don't do it that often. I'll do one like every like month or so. But I think that'd be really cool to do, and it's endless possible. You can do what ifs on Game of Thrones or Song of Ice and Fire forever. Like, there's just so many things that change, and that'd be a really cool thing that they could do. Jon and Dany have no chemistry. I agree. They had absolutely no chemistry. Which is another reason their relationship didn't really work. Jon is a kinslayer. Jon and Slayer Snow, yes. I feel like a Jon Snow show would be like the Kenobi series, what it would be better as a movie more. Exactly. So that's exactly when I started talking about Jon Snow show and where I thought you could do positively. I thought about the Kenobi show because what I wanted the Kenobi show to be, right? And again, it's what I wanted. It, I'm not butthurt that it wasn't that, but I'm butthurt with what they gave us. Is the Kenobi show really should have been a deep study on Obi-Wan Kenobi as a character and his failures, how he's dealing with that, and who he has become and what he needs to become for A New Hope. That's what the story should have been. Now, the problem here is that, for one, there's not really a plot there. Like you can't really do anything with Obi-Wan's character because we have to have this idea where, okay, by the time of A New Hope, he needs to be still on Tatooine and hiding. So you can't do anything major that exposes Obi-Wan Kenobi to the Empire or the public as a whole. But how do you make that interesting? And Obi-Wan Kenobi did exactly what you do not do. They broke basically the lore. They broke basically the timeline. Because there's a scene in that show where it's basically like, yeah, everybody now knows that Obi-Wan is working with Leia and the Organas, so why are they empowered by A New Hope? Also, we know he's alive and at large, so why was nobody looking for him? It opens up a bunch of things that the Jon Snow show, if it creates just, some random plot, it could hurt the actual, I guess, lore, even though there isn't really one anymore for Game of Thrones. Robin Aaron's Rebellion, that'd be pretty cool. What if we got a Robin Aaron show where Robin Aaron is like reflecting on his life and he's like, wow, Littlefinger really was manipulating me that whole time, and wow, my mother kind of did some shitty things. I would be more interested, okay, this might sound crazy, I would be more interested in a Robin Aaron character analysis or like stories based in the Vale than I am a Jon Snow show. Because at least there's a lot more to explore with Robin. Robin's a very underdeveloped character in the show. And seeing now, it could be very interesting the way that kind of turns out. And seeing like, okay, what people did Littlefinger have under his thumb? We could see kind of the after effects of Littlefinger kind of being in control of the Vale for a while. Is Rickon Stark autistic? I don't think so, Honky Kong, but I don't know. I like Duncan Egg if it was the same size as Sherlock, an hour and a half episode covering one of the stories. I could see that, Metal. Ashley, you're never getting me to say that, sorry. That would be the really cool one, man. That would be a really cool one. Another one I would like to see is like, what if Renly survived? What if Bran actually had the most compelling story? Well, then I've been wrong for many years now. I doubt we get a live action remake of GOT anytime soon, if ever, but an animated remake will be sick. Yeah, I agree. And it would be a bit more advantageous to HBO because it wouldn't cost as much to produce. So I think that would be a decent idea. I need Robert's Rebellion. I don't care. I would love to see Robert's Rebellion as well, but I don't think it's going to happen. Until either George passes away or the story's concluded, I don't think it's ever going to happen. Hi, Ethan. How are you? How are you doing this fine night or evening? Well, I guess depending on where you are, it could be any time, but, Oberyn had the best story. They should do a prequel journey on him. That would be another cool story. There's so many stories that I just don't understand why you would go for the Jon Snow show. It doesn't really make any sense. My heart literally dropped when... Yeah, hopefully George lives a very long life. I hope he lives to 150. He can make 10 more stories. But that's, I think, in my reality, probably, if we saw it. Maybe this is a hot take, but I don't think I need to see Robert's Rebellion or Aegon's Conquest because you already know most of the story. Robert's Rebellion, I would disagree with you on that, man. We don't know a lot of the... We know generally what happens in the result, but there's a lot of things that happen during Robert's Rebellion that we don't really know of. I think you should be his personal trainer. I wouldn't be a very good personal trainer right now, Ander. I kind of messed up my shoulder and haven't been able to like actually work out outside of cardio in like 6 days. So, yeah. Conquest of Dorne and the Blackfyre Rebellion would be really cool to see, and I'd love to see that. Thank you for the donation, Ethan. I very much appreciate it. You always support, and I appreciate you. But let's move on. Wait, hold on. Did I do all the main 5? Who would you consider the other person of the main 5? I'm not even sure who you would consider that. Would it be Sansa? Would that be the person we would consider as like the other top or main 5? Let's go Sansa. Sansa, I think Sansa could very realistically either be in control. I think she could be in control of the Vale. I think that's where I'm going to put her for now. I think that's where I'm going to put her. Jaime and Cersei, I think, are going to go out together. I'm not going to get too deep into it. All right, we got a lot of questions, so I'm going to get off this one. I've been on this question for a while. Do you plan on expanding your channel into covering other books, series, / franchises? If so, which ones interest you? This question came from Dogman. I know I saw him in the chat earlier. But yes and no. I tried it with Lord of the Rings, and I didn't really feel like, again, I didn't try very hard, okay? But I don't know. I love Lord of the Rings, but I think Lord of the Rings is a franchise now where it's not going anywhere. Like, there's nothing left to talk about with Lord of the Rings, where so many YouTubers have, my voice kind of got all messed up there for a second, have done all these videos. It's like, what can I add that's kind of new to the Lord of the Rings scene? And it's not going anywhere. Like I said, like, Rings of Power was like the next Lord of the Rings thing, and it's awful. Like, I hate it so badly that I'm not watching season 2. Like, I'm not going to cover season 2 whenever it comes out, if there even is a season 2. Now, what I would consider doing is more of like one-off videos where I'm not like going into another franchise, but it's more like I do one video just covering something. So for instance, I'm currently reading like so many book franchises right now. Like right now I'm reading Harry Potter and Dune, and I would be interested in doing like maybe a book review of them, like just doing book reviews, because Dune is a very interesting book in my opinion on how different it is from a lot of storytelling elements. And I will say, as Ander commented, because I just saw that out of the corner of my eye, he says mid and mid. I kind of agree on Dune. I like Dune. I like the premise of Dune, but I don't like the writing style. I'm not a huge fan. I'm also just not really a sci-fi guy, but I wanted to read it, give it a chance, and see what it's about. And I thought about doing a book review on it, and talking about why it's become so popular, why the movie has become as popular as it is in that franchise. So I wanted to do some on that. Harry Potter, I kind of wanted to just do like a series analysis maybe in the future. Because again, Harry Potter is another one where it'd be like Lord of the Rings all over again. It's like there's nothing really new, in my opinion, going into Lord of the Rings, or not Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, that I care about. Like Fantastic Beasts, I know a lot of people like it. I watched the last Fantastic Beasts movie that came out, and it was, in my opinion, awful. So again, I don't feel like it's going anywhere. So again, if I'm going to expand the channel to other like medias, it would be more as like one-off videos, or maybe I review the book, review the series, and just give my thoughts on it as a whole. It wouldn't be like I'd be committing time to it. Ethan is a champ. We need to get a W for Ethan in the chat. What if Danny didn't kind of forget about the Iron Fleet? Oh. It wouldn't have mattered. It wouldn't have mattered, because somehow what would have happened here is that Danny still would have died to Jon, and then both the dragons would have just flown away and just been like, we don't care that you killed our mother. By the way, Ethan, you do a great job. You don't ever have to, and this goes for anybody, you don't ever have to give me anything, but like just supporting watching is always nice, and you guys always leave kind words, so I appreciate that. What about The Witcher? I've never read The Witcher. I have never watched like the series, which I know that I'm not going to now, because of the whole Henry Cavill situation. There's no point getting invested, and then never mind. I've not played the game, so I want to read that series at some point. I just don't have the time right now. I'm reading 3 different. So the other series I'm reading is Percy Jackson, because I just wanted to go back and read it. It was just a really good, it was my favorite book series when I was growing up, before I got into more like expansive reading, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm kind of rereading that as well. So I'm kind of reading that, also reading For a Song of Ice and Fire, the reread. So The Witcher, it's kind of down the line for me right now. If I had to pick something new about, if I had to pick something new, would it be about Harry Potter? Is that what you're trying to say, Evie? I like Harry Potter, but I don't know. I don't know. Have you seen the new Harry Potter game, Grease? I have. I have only seen maybe the first 15, 20 minutes of gameplay. It did look pretty good. But I don't know. I don't know. I saw that the main villain, I guess it's kind of spoilers. It's not really, because I don't know anything about it. I just know the main villain is a goblin. There is a goblin rebellion, so maybe we've infiltrated the Harry Potter universe. I don't know. Gladys, you always make a good kind. Thank you, Ethan. I appreciate that. You should try the game. All right, I might have to try it. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. I actually did read the Diary of a Wimpy Kid books as well when I was younger. Those were always good as well. I always liked Percy Jackson more than Harry Potter. I was there with you as well. I've never actually read all the way through Harry Potter. I've watched the movies and I've like read certain books, but I haven't read them all like in a like reading. The Witcher book series is really good. I'm currently rereading the series. Love to see that. Okay, if Evie gives it a positive review, then it's probably pretty good. The movies really fumbled the bag. Hopefully this new Disney Plus... Oh, okay, don't even get me started about the Percy Jackson movies. Those infuriated me when they came out. Like, Percy Jackson, the movies, was like, for me, my preview of Game of Thrones Season 8. I've never been so pissed off. Like, before Season 8, I had never been that pissed off at a movie before. Or series. All I can say is the Witcher show is the Rings of Power equivalent, maybe a tad better, but it sucks. That's not what you like to see. This is true, not true. This is true. Yeah, I agree, though. I definitely think Percy Jackson better than Harry Potter. Who do you want to see as Cregan Stark? Okay, so you guys always ask me about this. Man in the Wall. You guys, everybody always asks me, who would I cast as this character or that? I don't know, dude. I don't know enough celebrities or actors to do that stuff. I just don't know. I don't know. So, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. Moving on. We have Ashley's comment. Ashley's in the chat. She's lurking. The identity of the harpy. Who you think poisoned the locusts, who their target was. I'm in the mood for some Marinese-ish, lol. Oh, a separate character analysis video on Hisdar will be fun at some point because almost nobody talks about him. That would be an interesting one to do. I would be interested in doing a Hisdar video. But personally for me, I think it is the Green Grace. It's just the way that she talks to Dany, the way that she kind of has power, but then plays like she doesn't have power. Some of the ways that we see characters get into power, like Hisdar. Hisdar was kind of pushed into power by the Green Grace. Like, she was like, okay, yeah, you should marry him to kind of unite the families. And that was kind of how that whole thing was set up, right? So I think, for me, that is who's in control of the harpy. Now, who poisoned the locusts? I don't know if that's the same answer. I think it could be. But my question would be, why would, whether it's the Green Grace, Hisdar, anyone like that, poison Dany when their power kind of falls apart if Dany's power falls apart? So, the idea of Dany, like, dying, for instance, right? All of these people will kind of turn on someone like a Hisdar, like, after a while. Like, it kind of works in the book series because, okay, everybody's like, okay, we'll just tolerate Hisdar because he is married to Dany, and people are like, well, we don't know if Dany's dead or not. If Dany was dead, like, she was dead and everybody knew it, Hisdar probably wouldn't retain power. There would be rebellions against it. So, to me, I don't think it makes any sense for them to be the ones that try to kill Dany. Now, could it have been somebody trying not to kill Dany, but maybe trying to kill Hisdar instead? It's possible. There's a lot of characters linked to wanting Hisdar dead. So I think the idea of who poisoned the locusts, for me, is much more interesting than who is the identity of the harpy. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that. I agree with Ashley though. I don't think his art is as bad as he's made out to be. I think he does some suspect things as well, but in this situation, like I just described, right, where Danny dies, I think Hizdar's position is actually very understandable. Where you want to kind of put all your power on your side, put people in charge that you trust, because if Danny was to never come back and die, like I said, you're probably going to have some revolution. You're going to have some rebellion. That he would need people around him that he can trust, and not Danny's men, because Danny's men, like we see with Barristan, are not loyal to him. So to me, I think it actually does make a lot of sense as to why it probably was not Hizdar that did the poisoning of the locusts. I agree. The harpy wasn't behind the poisoning. Maybe Dario poisoned the locusts. It's possible. That is possible. That could have been who did it. I could see that. Maybe Dario just being jealous and wanting to try and kill Hizdar. But I think Hizdar would have probably seen how dangerous that was. Like, you're putting it right in front of Danny as well. I don't know. George's portrayal of the East is a low-key racist. Why do you believe that, Ander? I don't think, or do think Danny Allper. Yeah, I do kind of agree with that. The Milk Goblin. Hi, Luke, by the way. Who would win in a fight? Early young Podrick or late season Hot Pie? Hot Pie's taking him easy. Like, let's say they're in a boxing match, right? Hot Pie's taking him round one. Knocking him straight out. Like, think about it like this. Hot Pie's a bigger lad, okay? If young Podrick, who's got, like, no arm muscles whatsoever, is going in for some punches, it's just going to deflect right off the flabs there, man. Hot Pie wins. And also, Hot Pie can bake. So he could, like, throw something at... he could throw, like, his little, like, bread wolf things he makes at Podrick, and he'd win. I think Stannis will die taking Winterfell, but the pro-Stark forces will win. It seems to make sense considering everything that happened. I could see that happening as well. Personally, I would like Stannis to live and then sacrifice himself in the war for the others, but I think that's also very plausible. Hot Pie would turn Podrick into bread. Yes. I don't think the locusts are poisoned. It was the wine. You think it was the wine? Interesting. Why do you think that, Ashley? We're going to run into another situation where we've got the like purple wedding thing. By the way, nobody called this out, which I'm glad. In my top 10 chapters, I forgot the purple wedding. I was gonna put I literally, when I got done recording the video, I was like, huh, you know, I didn't put the purple wedding in there. Oh well. Nobody called me out on it, so I'm okay with it. Bellis took a swig after eating the locusts. Only then did he become symptomatic. Okay, I can see that. So okay, Ashley, this is my question then. The wine that he drinks, whose, like, wine was that supposed to be? Was it supposed to be, like, was everybody, like, having this wine? Or, that would be my question there. Name me one interesting Marinese Dothraki character. Khal Drogo. He's interesting. I will say, though, I don't particularly enjoy the Marine plot very much, so... the Marinese, it's harder. What would you like the epilogue for wins, prologue for Dream of Spring? I want the epilogue for wins to be Stannis basically holding Winterfell and the others break through. Like, they break Winterfell, it's taken, and that's kind of how it goes. That's what I want the epilogue to be. It's like Stannis' last, like, straw. He's holding off against the others while the others retreat. It was in Dany's box, but Dellis is the only person who drank it. Then yeah, you might be onto something, Ashley. Then maybe that the wine was poisoned, and that was pretty much to take out everybody. I could see that. Now I don't know. I agree, Andrew, that he's not as interesting as other characters like Mance, but I do think Khal Drogo is a very fascinating character to me. Especially because Khal Drogo is a very progressive Khal, considering. Or maybe the chalice is poisoned. That could also be. There's a lot of questions, like, and a lot of these assassinations. Like, I did a whole video talking about the purple wedding. There's so much information we don't know. George doesn't give us certain things of information to make I guess, maybe not educated, because I think we've kind of made an educated guess here, but the exact idea of who it was. What are some things you'd like to see improved in House of the Dragon Season 2? I would like to see characterizations done a bit better. I think visually the show is pretty good for the most part. I think for the most part, the music was pretty good. I thought dialogue was pretty good. For the most part, there were certain elements like, the foot fetish scene, not good. But I want them to really go deeper into these characters, right? Rhaenyra is not really the developed character that she is in Fire and Blood, which is weird to say because Fire and Blood is not, we're not inside Rhaenyra's head. We're looking at her actions. We're looking at reports of what she may have said here and there. Rhaenyra is far more developed in that than she is in the show. In the show, Rhaenyra is this character that makes mistakes here and there, but she's still seen as like the hero. Like she's there's no real moral gray side to Rhaenyra yet. We haven't really seen it. Like we haven't seen some of these actions that I always reference. Like Vaemon's death, for instance. Daemon, again, another character that I think already it's kind of beyond repair at this point. But Daemon's character being an actual person, like not being just a complete asshole all the time, like Matthew says, making him not as like one-dimensional, really. Like he just feels like, and this is kind of leaning towards the black side, because for the most part, again, I think Alicent, for the most part, outside of how they ended season 1, was probably the strongest characterization of the entire show outside of Viserys. Otto, I think, has been done pretty well. So again, I think characterizations, especially as we're bringing in new characters, as the story is going to expand, that we're really focusing on developing our characters and not doing what the later seasons of Game of Thrones did, where it was just spectacle, having things happen to get from this point to this point. To me, that's what I want to see them do. I want to make sure we're not getting too much back into the later seasons of season 8. Or not later season 8, seasons of Game of Thrones. I will agree. I think Scott Haas is an interesting character. He's still not as interesting as most of the other characters for me, but I do think he's an interesting character. All right. That'll move us on to Dark Souls 2 is Supreme. Chances of us getting another, I think he meant to say Dunk and Egg story. It was DYE, so I'm assuming that's what he meant. Do you think the community would be, I can't speak. Do you think the community would be more open towards that story being written by other authors? I think people would be much happier if we were going to get Dunk and Egg stuff, if other people wrote it and George focused on wins. But I don't know, personally. I think we will get more Dunk and Egg, personally. That's another great point, Ashley, that, yes, Corus has been adapted pretty well. We just don't see a lot of him. I want to, like, broaden our cast. Like, focus on other characters when we get those scenes of our main characters. They're more meaningful, more impactful. They develop them a little bit more, while we also are giving new characters time in the sun and being able to develop them. Yeah, Matthew, that whole Vaemon situation happens much more differently in the story, and it shows Rhaenyra's more brutal side, and I like that. I wanted to see that in season 1, and we never saw that side of Rhaenyra. They didn't build her character and what she's going to develop in as the series goes on, and that's something that was a huge disappointment for me within the first season. The King of Necro Limbo. What further changes from the book story would you like to see in House of the Dragon, if any? Call me a weakling, but I love for Jaehaera not to die. So any future changes? I can't really think of any, because for the most part, I really like the way the Dance of the Dragons is told. What changes? I would like to see a bit more of the Maester conspiracy stuff That would kind of be a change because you don't see that really in Fire and Blood during the actual war of the Dance of the Dragons. We see a lot of it building up to it and a lot after, but we don't see any in the middle, like what the Maesters are up to. I'd be cool if we saw some more of that. Outside of that, I really don't like when they change from the book story to the show. A lot of the times when they did that in season 1, they really struggled. Like, they made plot points kind of loose, like Laenor, for instance. So I'd like for them to lean kind of more back into the actual story that we get in Fire and Blood, but I don't know. I had liked how Rhaenys was adapted initially, but yeah, Rhaenys was not adapted very well. And the problem is, Rhaenys going forward and the way her story goes, the emotional impact is not going to hit nearly as much as if they had developed her character properly. But, you know, we take our wins with the losses, I guess. I don't know. So, coming in from Ramiro Men, do you think the Blackfyres ever had a chance? Rebellions 2 to 4 seem pretty doomed on purpose, but I don't know if George believes 1 and 5 really could succeed. So I think, actually, the first one had a chance. Now, what would have had to have happened in the first one? The Blackfyres needed a very decisive victory. They needed, like, something that showed the rest of Westeros that there was a chance the Blackfyres could win. That's what they needed. If you look at American history, what the North needed for Abraham Lincoln to do, like, the Emancipation Proclamation is have the North in a position where they look like they were going to win, right? Or they were they had to have a victory. The Blackfyre, the first rebellion, really never got there. So, like, houses that were kind of on the fence, for instance, House Hightower did not take a side on either side. They were kind of playing both sides. If the Blackfyre have, like, a major victory, for instance, maybe the Hightowers join them. And then you could see maybe the Blackfyres having a chance. I do think, though, I don't really think so, outside of the first one. I think out of the other ones, they really didn't have a chance. What was your biggest disappointment in Fire and Blood? And this comes from Tywinette Lannister. I always struggle on that because it's not actually Lannister. It's just a little different. But that's a tough question because I don't think that I was really disappointed with Fire and Blood at all at any point. When I read Fire and Blood for the first time, I didn't really know what to expect. And I really ended up really liking the book. Some of my earlier content on this channel was kind of inspired by Fire and Blood. I, for the most part, didn't really have any disappointments of Fire and Blood. So I'm going to actually note to you instead of what I think is the weakest part of Fire and Blood. I think Jaehaerys' reign, in my opinion, just goes on for too long. I think George goes on a little bit too long about his peaceful reign. I get why he does it, but I think it just went on for too long. There's just, like, it gets that period of the book is the longest part to get through until it kind of separates the really interesting stuff with the other really interesting stuff. Like, you have Aegon to Maegor, pretty cool. Like, there's a lot of rebellion going on. There's a lot of awesome things happening. Jaehaerys' reign, it's like, Kingdoms are pretty peaceful. Jaehaerys just has issues with his children, and yeah, it's like, it gets kind of dull at times. So that, I guess, would be my answer to that. Next question is, yes, my secondary account. Interesting. Chances of Viserys II being fake. Also, do you think he had a hand in the death of his brother and nephews? I personally do not. I think Viserys II is actually one of the better rulers. For people that don't know, before he becomes king, and he's king for a very short amount of time, he was Hand of the King for 3 different kings. One of them being his brother. I personally don't think so. I think a lot of their deaths were kind of their own faults to a degree. But no, I do not think he is fake or had a hand in the death of his brothers and nephews. I do not think so, no. I think they'll make Daemon breathe fire. Wouldn't surprise me. I like that they she seemed to be to Rhaenyra what the Hound was to Sansa, but the dynamic got dropped sadly. Yeah, agreed. I think they're a bit nervous about making Rhaenyra unsympathetic, considering it might lead to a certain bad faith public bad. Yeah, I agree, or not Matthew. I agree, man, because I think the whole idea here is they're scared to go down the Dany route. They're scared of, oh well, we made Dany this fan favorite, and then she became, a villain at the end, and it wasn't done right. I think they're scared to take that leap, and you don't have to make Rhaenyra a villain. Rhaenyra is my favorite Targaryen, and it's not because she's this saint of a character that is like a hero. She's a very morally complex character. And I just think they're afraid to kind of lean into her darker side while also showing her good characteristics. Aemond Daemon Dragonfight was ridiculous. I mean, I get what you're saying, but personally I loved that part. Makes sense, Matthew. Kind of like what happened when they accused the show of doing Bury Your Gaze in episode 5 when Kristen Cole killed Leonard. Yes. My name actually is Matthew for what it's worth. Well, there we go. I just knew these things. Another Matt? Yes. I feel like Matt is a very common name. Not to throw you guys under the bus, but I feel like Matt/Matthew is a very common name. But I don't know. I think the House of the Dragon team is afraid to make anyone other than Daemon unlikable. I agree but disagree. I feel like they've made Aegon II kind of unlikable, but then I don't know. They do a weird thing with Aegon II, so we're not going to get into it. Can Boskert asks, what if our world connected to the world of Westeros through a magic portal? That being said, a Song of Ice and Fire series does not exist in our world in this scenario. If our world connected to the world of Westeros, I really hope we're able to kill those dragons. Because if Dany comes through that portal with 3 dragons and we can't kill it for some reason, we are fucked. But that being said, I think more or less what would happen is we would just see basically a territorial rush to claim all the territory in the Westeros land. Because like people in Westeros are fighting with swords and bows and arrows and crossbows. Like, I get what you're trying to say, Can, but I mean, it'd be a massacre. People will be getting enslaved. That's all I'm going to say. Like, you would just see, it would be like North America getting founded all over again. Put it that way. It is. I was one of 3 Matthews in my class. I had a lot of Matthews that I remember in like high school and grade school as well. Well, we are the gifts from God. Okay, whatever you tell yourselves at night. I think they are just bad writers. To a degree, I also agree with that, Ander. I agree to an extent. So, moving on. THFC Steve says, it might not cover a full video, but some discussion and speculation surrounding the world of ice that was melted and reforged. I haven't seen anyone else notice this, but the swords seem to be like Stark, or to be still Stark swords in name. Oathkeeper and Widow's Wail. And I thought this was a really cool idea and comment from by Steve, because it is something that's very interesting to think about. Right? When you think about Oathkeeper, that is something that's very like similar to Ned. It's something that we kind of react to with Ned. And then also Widow's Wail relates kind of to Catelyn, kind of her death. So again, I think that is a really great observation you make, Steve. And yeah, I don't really have much else to talk about with ice itself for this. Hi, Paul. Also, I don't know if Nightbot muted you or not, but it was not a fan of the spamming of the caps, it would appear. But welcome to the stream. Thank you for stopping in. Hopefully Nightbot doesn't do anything else to you. Relax. Wait, what are we relaxing on? What do you think happened to Blackfyre the Sword? I think it's possible it could be with Bloodraven. I don't know where else. I mean, maybe it could be. Or no, okay. So, maybe not Blackfyre, sorry. But I think Dark Sister could possibly be with Bloodraven. I always get the swords confused. Blackfyre could possibly be, I don't know, maybe Illyrio has it. I don't know where Blackfyre could be. Where do you guys think? Also, Paul, you're good. I didn't even know. I've just implemented Nightbot for this stream, and I don't really know how it works yet. So if it ever like times you guys out or anything, just let me know, and I'll fix it. Bowl swords will be big in the end of these books. True. Where do you guys think they are? I'm just curious. Like, where do you guys think those swords are? I haven't done the most research on the sword, so I'm not sure where they would be. I think Bloodraven could make sense that maybe he brought the sword north and he has it with him in the cave with Bran. But I don't know. I don't know. That's an interesting question, though. It's a very interesting question. So, Man in the Wall, Matthew in the chat, asks, what Game of Thrones spinoff would you like to see most? And also, we have another question about fan casting. Again, I don't know enough actors to give a great opinion on this, so I'm probably not going to answer the part of that. But Game of Thrones spinoff you would like to see the most. I'm going to answer this the most realistic I possibly could, because I want to see Robert's Rebellion the most. But I think the most likely next thing we'll see is either the Blackfyre Rebellion, the first one, or Aegon's Conquest. I think those two would be logical that we could see, and also be really cool to see as well. Dunk and Egg, that'd be a good one to see. I agree with the basic take that Illyrio is giving Blackfyre to young Riff. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. It'd be good symbolism as well. Is there anything about Song of Ice and Fire that you don't like? Maybe a certain storyline, a certain character you see, something maybe George R. R. Martin could have done better. Bran. So, Manveer, I'm going to just tell you guys, tomorrow's video, right, is Bran 2. And it's a big chapter where Bran falls, well, it doesn't fall, he gets pushed out of the tower by Jaime and all that. And when I tell you, out of the entire first, like, 80 to 100 pages, the first 6 pages of that chapter are some of the worst reading in the entire series. Because, like, this is Bran's personality in his chapter compared to Arya. Arya has this plot where she feels like she's not wanted, that she's very lonely, that she's not loved. She's a tomboy, a very unique character in this world. And Bran, comparatively, in, like, we're 2 chapters in now with Bran's character, and this is all we know of Bran in the first 2 chapters. He's a naive kind of kid who wants to be a knight and he likes to climb. He has no other character, like, he has nothing personality-wise outside of that. I don't know, man. I get why Bran's in the story, but reading Bran at times, it's just tough. Like, I don't know. Also, I think at times George goes a little over the top on the amount of sex scenes we have, or how he describes it and goes on and on. I just feel like sometimes it's just not needed, but I don't know. Some people think that Longclaw is Dark Sister. It makes sense to an extent, but I don't believe that personally. I would be interested to see what the reasoning is of it, though. I kind of think Conquest of Dorne makes the most sense to do next, but that's just me. That'd be another cool one as well. Stop hating on Bran. All right, Ander. Maybe I will. I'll stop it for now. I think George didn't need to go from AP list. That's another good point, Ander. I agree with that as well. It kind of made writing the story much more difficult. I agree, man. I agree. Agree with you on that, Paul. It's the same issue with... I agree, Ashley, to what you're saying as well, but I don't know. I mean, you know, I agree. I don't know. Jim, I am of the opposite opinion. I really like Asha's chapters. I really like where George has established her character and where she's going to go in the future. I actually am really excited for her character. If Bran becomes king, I will understand why George did it, but I will still feel like, man, that fucking sucks. I don't know. Which king will surprise us the most in Fire and Blood 2? Now, this question came from Smoke Salesman Bielza. Hopefully I said your name right. I struggled with this question. I don't know what... Because surprise is an interesting word to describe a king, right? Because it'd have to be somebody that we don't think... Or something we don't expect about a king, for instance. Possibly we could see maybe Aegon the Fourth had a bit more going on. Maybe George tries to make him a little bit more of a complex character than just the fucking moron he is. Maybe. I don't know. That is such a tough question to me. I'd like to say Viserys II, because I think a lot of the community underrates how well he did as a hand, and, you know, he was king for a second. I think I'll just go with Viserys II on that question. I'm a mere swamp enjoyer. All right. George R. Martin said Asha chapters are the most fun for him to write. I could see why. I feel like he has a lot of fun with Asha chapters, personally. I agree, Man in the Wall. Sansa chapters make me want to pull my eyes out sometimes. I agree. The Dany Jorah scene in book 3 is disgusting. I agree. I think it's one of the worst chapters in all of A Song of Ice and Fire. Hi, Ghost. How are you? Probably Aegon the Fifth for me. Yeah, that'd be another good one. I'd say either... See, you know, I'm gonna stay with Viserys II, because I feel like Aegon the Fifth is more well known because of Dunk and Egg. I think more people know him, I guess. So for me, he wouldn't be as much as a surprise. I'd say Viserys II. Even though I don't think we'll get in the Windsor, but I really want to see a conversation between Victarion and Stannis. Would definitely be a fascinating read. It really would. I don't think it's going to happen, Manveer, but I would really like that as well. Has Varys ever lied? Nah, not Viserys. I think I've said Viserys. Varys is a... He's a man that can't lie. He's an angel. He's a saint. No lying here. I'm excited to see Stannis through Asha's eyes, because Stannis shows a completely different side of himself around her. Agreed. Martin compared Aegon IV to Henry the Eighth, who was a terrible king in many ways, but was ultimately more complex. Build the foundations of the English Navy, was beloved by commoners. Agree. I think it'd be interesting if he did do something like that. Like, he tried to maybe not take away from, yes, he was a terrible king, but build on who he was as a person. What's the question? As of right now, the question was, which king will surprise us the most in Fire and Blood Part 2? Or, if you want to be George and be real weird about it, Blood and Fire. I hate that name. I cannot stand that name. Wouldn't be surprised if there's more to Aegon. Yeah, my opinion is that Fire and Blood Part 2 will be Aegon III to Daeron II, especially first Blackfyre, or specifically. Yeah. So young Griff is Aegon then? Like I said, Varys is a saint. He's never lied. Varys is a man of the people. He goes to church, and he tells the truth. He's honest Varys. Honest Varys. Blood and Fire sounds like the Blackfyre's motto. Yeah, it's just like a worse version of the Targaryen stuff. Actually, that's a good try. That was a good try. Leo and Belfi ask, if you had to guess, what is the Song of Ice and Fire? Is it dragons versus others? Is it a legendary hero? Several heroes? Well, I think it has a multifaceted, I guess, reasons of why it's named that. One, I think you will have the idea that Jon is ice and Dany is fire. So I think you'll have that, and that the story is kind of focused on those two. They're kind of two of the main characters, them meeting up and becoming the Song of Ice and Fire. But I also think the idea of the dragons versus the others, also ice and fire. I think you could have other ideas of the legendary hero as well. I think there are a lot of different meanings of why George chose that name other than just one. So I think that um, is kind of the whole idea there. Who do you think lives longer, Roose or Ramsay? I think Ramsay lives longer, personally. I would like Roose to live longer because I think Roose is more interesting, but I don't think it's going to happen. And our last question that I think I have one more on my actual community page that I didn't write down. But this comes from Matthew Crooks. He's this really weird guy always in my stream chat, and I don't know, he's just a little weird. I just want to let you guys know if you guys ever see him. He's always outside my house as well. Crazy. He just kind of stalks me. It's crazy. But if you were a soldier from one of the kingdoms, what kind of class of soldiers would you want to be trained in? Foot soldier of any variety, archery, cavalry, or artillery? I would choose archery. It seems like war happens a lot in this series, and I feel like being a foot soldier means you're going to die. I feel like archery is the route that doesn't mean I die, usually. Maybe cavalry. Cavalry would be really cool, too, but I don't know. I think circle back to the Pact of Ice and Fire and the Dance of Dragons. That could be a cool one, Paul. I think of deep fried ice cream. Oh dear. Do you think Cersei's gonna blow up the Sept in the books? I don't know if it's gonna specifically be the Sept. But I think she will try to use the wildfire, especially if it's like going against young Griff. Like, say the doors are opened, the gates are opened, young Griff comes in. I think then she could look to do that. I would actually like to know more about Aegon the Unworthy. We know that the Maesters kind of give biased opinions of Targaryen, so maybe he wasn't as bad as we think he is. Agreed. It'd be interesting to learn about him. Now, the problem with that ghost is, regardless, Fire and Blood Part 2 is still going to be written by the Maesters, so we're going to get a very biased opinion on it either way. So it's going to be interesting if George gives us information to kind of read between the lines and kind of figure out what happened there. Historically, the archers have been pretty clutch. Raven's teeth, exactly. You can't forget the Blackfish's archers that are always taking out all the ravens trying to leave and stuff. Archers low-key, exactly, Ghosty, exactly. As long as I don't die. But see, you guys are taking it more as like, what's the most important? I'm taking it as, how do I not die? I would take a sample chapter from Winds over Blood and Fire. I would not. Because a sample chapter from Winds, again, it's very subject to change, which is kind of my thoughts on that, but I don't know. Now, the next part. Matthew asks, being a big World War II guy, what is your favorite thing or battle from or about the war? So, I thought about this question a lot today. I want you to know that, Matthew. And I came to the conclusion that the thing I like to learn about the most about World War II is not exactly World War II itself, but the lead up of World War II. Like, it's kind of, again, what I like about A Song of Ice and Fire, an analysis of what makes people do things. Like, what made the German people turn to Hitler? Why were there, like, what made them desperate enough for that? What was the context of the war? Like, what was going on before then? With Germany being pretty much bankrupt, poor, looking at the ideas of the way that the Nazi party was able to change public perspective, taking over the radio, which was a major facet at that time. I think I'm way more interested on the buildup of World War II than I am actually World War II. If you wanted me to pick a part of World War II, I would probably say the Battle of London or anything kind of going on in Northern Africa in World War II. I think with like Rommel are pretty interesting as well. Which is weird to say because I'm American and I didn't really choose any of the American stuff, but I think Daeron the Young Dragon would be interesting for a show because we could see a different side to him than the heroic God, King, Conqueror version of himself he presents. That could be true. That'd be a good one. I also hide people's closets and point at them when they least suspect it. I know. Whenever I'm like getting lazy and not recording a video, Matthew comes out of my closet and he's like, do it. Yeah. Never want to hear another sample chapter from him. I want the full book. I refuse to read those. I kind of agree with you. Not sure where. I don't want him to keep releasing sample chapters. I'd rather just get the whole thing. Like, I'd rather not, like, know, like, a portion of the story already before it happens. I kind of just like the whole thing. Which may be greedy, but who knows. Colin was originally supposed to die in a big battle, but the last minute D&D decided against it in favor of suicide, so I think Cersei blowing the sept only. Happened because they need a reason for Tommen committing suicide. Okay, makes sense. Who do you think will ride the other two dragons? Could it be Aegon and Jon? So, I think it does make sense that Jon could ride one of them. But the other one I actually don't think will be in Dany's possession. I think it's quite possible that one of them could try, like, someone could try and take one of her dragons, like Euron. So I don't know if we will ever actually see 3 people ride her dragons. It is possible for Aegon, regardless if he's a Blackfyre, because the Blackfyre still have Targaryen blood. So it could be possible there as well. Some people also point to Tyrion being a Targaryen. There's maybe some evidence for that. I'm not a huge fan of that theory, but there's some evidence there. Maybe for that. I need a sample chapter. We're starving. I think he said there's no more sample chapters coming out, which I think makes sense. He's given us a lot of sample chapters, and I think he wants to kind of save the rest of the book for when it comes out. So if the sept gets blown, it probably won't be from her. Okay. So her pounds will be Azor Ahai. Yes. Tyrion Dragonrider will be pretty silly and awkward. Him chopping people's legs off in battle is bad enough. I agree with you, Paul. I don't want to see Tyrion be a dragon rider, but I don't know. I feel like King Daeron is underrated. He was technically the last good king Westeros had before A Song of Ice and Fire. That's debatable. Debatable, Ghost. Debatable. But that has gotten me through my list that I've written down. Let's go to my community post, see if there's any ones I haven't answered yet on here. I'm just looking through them. So Richard Ramirez asks, I believe, or maybe it wasn't an ask, but he says my thoughts on it. I believe that the Sword Dawn is going to have a much bigger impact on the whole story. I feel that this is the sword that Jon Snow will eventually own and will use in the Great War against the Dead. Can you see this happening yourself? Any thoughts? I don't think Jon would wield Dawn personally, just because Jon already has Longclaw. I could see Dawn playing a more bigger impact on the story, but for me, I just don't know yet. I don't know what Dawn is going to be involved with. We haven't gotten a ton of information like surrounding Dawn really. So for me, I would say it's very possible, but personally, I don't believe so. Do I have any other questions on here? All right, so that is my questions from the YouTube page. So anything else you guys want to ask me, put them down in the comments. It's kind of behind on my desktop. Let me go back to my laptop. I feel like you already said that. My mistake. I meant Daeron the Second. Oh, okay. Do you think Daemon the Second is actually Daenerys and Aemon's child? Personally, I don't know. It's a tough one. I could go back and forth on that one. I personally don't think so, but it is possible. Like, I'd leave it open to, like, interpretation. Like, I could definitely see why you would believe it, but personally, I don't. I don't know. But that will be the end of the Q&A. Thank you for everyone that came into the stream and supported the stream. Thank you again. Big shout out to Ethan. I appreciate you as always. And that will kind of be the end of the stream. And if you're we'll do one more. If you're in charge of a What If Game of Thrones show and had 10 episodes to do 10 scenarios, which ones do you think okay, so that's a good question. This is going to be the question we're going to end on, guys. This will be the question we end on. Let's do 10. Okay, so 1. We're going to do Stannis doesn't lose the Blackwater. That's number 1. What if Renly doesn't die? That's another one. Third one. What if Ned doesn't die? What if Ned survives? He makes it north. 4. What if Rhaegar beats Robert on the Trident and kills Robert Baratheon? 5. What if Aegon II is killed? Instead of getting injured and hiding out, what if he dies then? Okay. I know it's not Game of Thrones, but we're going to expand our horizons. 6. What if the Blackfyres had won the first Blackfyre Rebellion? 7. What would I do here? I'm trying to think. What are some other ones that would be interesting to do? What if... Oh, I might need some ideas. I gotta think of something. Hold on. 7. What if Jaime was never released from prison by Catelyn? 8. What if Robert Baratheon is actually told of the Cersei incest with Jaime? I don't know what number we're on. I think we're on number 9 now. Number 9. What if Viserys had actually married Laena? Number 10. What if Khal Drogo doesn't die? I was thinking that just when I look in the chat. Man, that's a good one. That's exactly what I was thinking of. What if Khal Drogo doesn't die and actually goes to Westeros with Dany? Those are my 10 that I can think of as of right now. But yeah, all great questions. Ander, I should do more Q&As. I agree. I like doing Q&As. They're just more laid back. They're a little bit more chill. And I like doing those with them, or with you guys. I hope you guys liked the stream. I hope everything ran smoothly for you guys. And first test stream on a new streaming software. So I hope everything looked okay. Everything sounded all right. And yeah, thank you guys all for coming to the stream tonight. And I will see you guys either in the videos this week or next week for a stream. So bye, guys. Thank you for